All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as the Aussies love to say, good day. My name is Ryan. I'm the head of BD and partnerships at Moonbeam and DataHaven, and I'm gathered today by an incredible group of people who are going to help me share some interesting news about Moonbeam, about DataHaven, as well as EigenLayer. So before we kick off, if any of you are watching live, please do share the stream across X, LinkedIn, or YouTube with any of your friends, any of your colleagues, especially those bullish on blockchain and AI. Now, before we kick off, I want to do a quick introduction of everybody, and I'm going to hand it over to you guys to introduce yourselves. Share your name, your company you represent, your title, and because it's Friday and I love Fun Fridays, share with everybody your favorite animal. So I'm going to kick off first with Nick.
Hey everyone, excited to be here. My name is Nick Garcia. I am a research manager with Messari. I've been covering the Moonbeam ecosystem for the better part of a year now. Excited to talk all things Moonbeam. My favorite animal, I have my background blurred, but I have a big lobster on my wall, so I'm gonna give kudos to the lobster on my wall.
Oh, I love that. Awesome. What about Luke?
Hi, everyone. I am from EigenLabs. I lead the ABS team here, primarily on the BD side, and my favorite animal is a rhino.
Oh, I love that because that just so happens to be my nickname. So I'm down for that. There you go. What about Aaron?
Hey everyone, my name is Aaron Evans, and I'm head of operations at the Moonbeam Foundation. And my favorite animal is a river otter, which is kind of weird, but we get some of those in Ontario, where I'm from, at my cottage. And I like swimming, and I like swimming in the river and swimming like a river otter myself. So
I thought you were going to say that. I love it. Siko.
Hey, I'm Siko Nates. I'm head of ecosystem for Moonbeam. And yeah, my favorite animal, sorry, I'm going to be a little boring here. We have a black cat in the house. Her name is Kiki. She's definitely, I think, kind of the most loved creature in this house. And she's very cute, but at the same time, she's also a stone cold killer. The amount of dead animals that show up on our deck is, on a daily basis, pretty insane. And you don't know, she might make an appearance. Sometimes she does. So, yeah.
I love that. I've got to say, of all the years that I've asked people their favorite animal, I have never heard somebody say a black cat. So there's a first. Alex,
hey everybody.
Over to you.
Alex runs strategy here within Moonbeam and DataHaven. And for me, it's an elephant. I just imagine them sitting on my children when I have problems with them. And it's great imagery.
Oh, wow. And great memories, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Well, thanks, everybody. We have an exciting show today. Let's kick off first. So, Nick, I know you've been covering Moonbeam for quite some time now. Just released the new Messari report. How about you share with the audience the findings, some of the exciting information, and anything else that you'd like to share?
Sure, happy to. So like it's been mentioned here before, I've been covering the Moonbeam ecosystem for a little while now. So there's been a lot going on, frankly. I think one of the larger, more notable developments we saw this year was Moonbeam routed liquidity. So there was over $30 million in volume across 2,300 transactions for MRL, Moonbeam routed liquidity, in 2024. I'd expect that number to only accelerate as we go into 2025 and more teams and more protocols begin to leverage that. Moonbeam had a strong Q4, arguably the strongest quarter of the year for the protocol. We saw transactions increase by over 50% quarter over quarter, and there was over 120 million inflows into the ecosystem. I think seeing flows is probably one of, if not like the strongest leading indicator of where activity is going to take place. So encouraging to see that amount of funds flowing into the ecosystem. Another leading indicator is developer activity, right? And I think that continues to increase as well. Moonbeam's got over 200 total developers, over 70 full-time. ranks among the largest developer ecosystems, according to Electric Capital's always insightful annual developer report. So looking good on that front as well. And then just kind of talking about the actual Moonbeam ecosystem itself. StellaSwap has become the largest protocol by TVL. That title was held by Moonwell for a little while, but like most healthy ecosystems, we're seeing StellaSwap kind of emerge there. And then lastly, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more on this call, is Moonbeam's been introducing plans for an expansion into the Ethereum ecosystem. So there's a lot to unpack there, and other folks on this call could probably do a better job of it. But the high level is to launch an expansion chain into the restaking ecosystem that kind of preserves Moonbeam's EVM moat, along with their like cross-chain capabilities still in the Polkadot parachain ecosystem. So there was a lot going on in Q4. Happy to unpack any of that, but that's kind of the key insights that I highlighted in the report.
No, that's awesome. Thank you, Nick, and appreciate it. I know the report was thorough, some great statistics. One of the most interesting ones, because we did share this actually on the last session that we did like this, is the concept that we've used for quite some time now around Moonbeam, which is build here, grow anywhere. And the statistics around MRL and the flow of transaction and TVL just talks to that narrative. I thought, Aaron, any chance you can unpack a little more about the MRL side or anything you want to add?
Sure. Yeah, no. So maybe just quickly, I'll give people a quick, in case they're unfamiliar with MRL, Moonbeam Routed Liquidity, what it's all about. So Moonbeam, the idea behind Moonbeam was to, build this parachain in the Polkadot ecosystem, which was like a network of chains kind of thing with secure communication between them. That was kind of the vision. But we provide an EVM interface into that ecosystem. And I think, we've definitely succeeded in doing that. Moonbeam is the gateway in and out of Polkadot, essentially. So there's a lot of other parachains that are, specialized chains for doing specific types of things. There's gaming ones, there's ones that are focused around DeFi, there's RWA ones and so forth. There's all kinds of these specialized ones, but they're substrate based. And so for people that are familiar with an EVM interface, they can be, I don't want to say difficult to work with, but they're not familiar, right? So one of the awesome things about when we combine the power of some of the XCM technology, the cross-chain technology in the Polkadot world, and the EVM interface of Moonbeam, is that we're able to have all the major GMP protocols like Axelar, Layer 0, Wormhole, etc., plug into Moonbeam, and then have liquidity flow from Ethereum, Solana, like other ecosystems, into Moonbeam, and it either gets deposited there or it can continue and flow to these other parachains. So these other parachains love this because they're able to it allows them a line into other ecosystems. And we've seen a steady increase of flow, mainly which is great. But it also provides the capability for these parachains, because they have their own tokens, to get those tokens more or less exported to Ethereum or wherever, so that they can be listed on other venues. So, as Nick mentioned, we had in Q4 over $30 million worth of volume on there. That just continues to grow over time. And I think it's a testament to the cross-chain and interoperability focus that has been at the core of the Moonbeam project for quite some time. And Nick, I don't want to, I know we're going to expand on DataHaven later, but I think that's kind of the next step, is bringing that cross-chain and interoperability into an expansion into the Ethereum ecosystem. We'll get more into that a bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate sharing that. We've seen applications, and you already touched on this, applications, whether it's just pure DeFi, whether it's Deepin, whether it's RWA stuff, even whether it's gaming, that are leveraging these GMPs and leveraging Moonbeam as it was built, as this liquidity gateway to the outside world and back in. So really some great statistics and some great liquidity flowing across our GMPs. With that, one of the other things that you mentioned, Nick, is around gaming. And Moonbeam has a thriving gaming ecosystem. We keep getting approached by other games that are looking to deploy in our ecosystem and also use our MRL for access to players and users and liquidity elsewhere. But I wanted to actually hand over to Seiko, who is not just an avid gamer, although we were joking with him yesterday that he seems to have slipped down a bit. He's not playing as much as he did, but certainly an avid gamer, somebody who I always go to as a subject matter expert around all things gaming, and thought, why don't you share about what's been happening in our gaming ecosystem? Tell us a bit about Nemus and the tournaments and anything else that's been interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, unfortunately, I've had too much work, so that's actually been getting in the way of my gaming activity. But I think, like, it is very exciting. I mean, gaming, as Ryan mentioned, has been kind of like one of the main pillars that we've been going after. And part of our strategy was, like, kind of a big believer in this sort of networking effects, right? Like, I mean, if you think about, games like, I mean, obviously, building a game is a very costly and lengthy endeavor. And then, like, it comes down to like player acquisition. And so, obviously we can help games with grants, we can help them with technical support, with co-marketing, but we were really trying to think about how can we help them with this like user acquisition problem. And so last year we made this investment in Nemus. They're a gaming infrastructure team. They have a wallet. They have like a hub, like a landing, think of like a kind of like a Steam for Web3 games. But the thing that we asked them to build for us, and which they did, is this tournament system. And so basically the way that this works is that if games have the concept of a score, that could be anything, right? That could be in a fantasy role-playing game, that could be XP, in like a platform game, that could be high scores or whatever. As long as they have a score and that score is expressed on chain, then Nemus can basically like aggregate that and build it into a leaderboard. And so this launched at the beginning of December. Basically what we've been running is these like incentivized tournaments where, like the tournament will run for a specific game for like a week. People can kind of compete on it, and if they get into the, we're incentivizing the leaderboard. So if you get into like, the top 20, basically there's cash prizes, and that has proven very, very successful. So this 56% increase quarter over quarter. I mean, it's kind of coming from a variety of different sources, and I'll at the end kind of mention like some of the other sources, but gaming has been part of that. Like the games that are participating in the gaming tournaments. So over the last 2 months, they've seen 4 to 5x increases in transaction volume. We've also had, probably the premier game on Moonbeam, which is Everloot. They've launched their V1, and and they've done a lot of work with KOLs, and they've worked with Nemus. They've worked with some other platforms to kind of grow users. So they've hit as high as like 3,500 users, which is pretty meteoric considering like how small that community was before. So like we're just seeing tremendous strong growth in that area, and I think there's more games coming. So I know Nemus is working with 3 other studios to integrate their games into the tournament system. We've also signed a deal with Sequence, which is a kind of a gaming SDK. They're deploying to Moonbeam as we speak. I think in fact the deployment will be completed by end of this week, and they're introducing us to more of their kind of like studio pipeline. And again, we're kind of leaning into this like tournament system and grants and so forth. I mean, this is the stuff that gaming studios want to hear, right? They're like, yeah, okay, you guys can help us technically, you can help us financially, you guys can help us with user acquisition. I mean, it's kind of checks all the boxes for them. So, I mean, in addition to gaming, I mean, yeah, this 56% increase. I mean, gaming's been a factor of that, but we've seen like a general increase across a diversity of apps in the Moonbeam ecosystem. There are a couple of other ones that stand out. So I think Nick mentioned Stella. So quarter over quarter, they more than doubled transaction volume. And then the absolute standout of the class is Tokeniza. They're a general purpose RWA like tokenization platform. So they've, comparing Q4 with Q3, they almost quadrupled the amount of transaction volume that they did. So like, there's, and they've been growing ever since they launched on Moonbeam in March of this year. But like Q4, like it seems to started hitting this like exponential curve. So like, yeah, it's just, I think we're very excited to see about, all this activity happening. So it's great news. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Thank you, Seiko. And I think like one of the most important things that I'm hearing is not just a thriving gaming ecosystem, but we really do have a full service offering for games that want to build on Moonbeam, whether it's grants, whether it's some marketing support, whether it's, introduction or at least access to liquidity, access to other users. So if there are games out there looking for a home, please do reach out to us, reach out to Seco, reach out to the team here. You know how to get hold of us. I think it's pretty easy. Yep, hit me up on Twitter or X, should I say nowadays. DMs are open, but they sometimes get lost in all the spam because apparently some prince in some part of the world wants me to send them my seed phrase. So anyway, moving on from gaming, one of the things that I didn't touch on before we move into the DataHaven side. So Nick, you did touch on Stellar Swap, an incredible partnership and DEX built on Moonbeam. I believe we will be having them live on one of these sessions in the coming weeks. Please do check them out as well. Great friends of ours and doing an incredible job. Yes, we will never ask for your seed phrase ever. Okay, so unless you have been living in a cave, living under a rock, been DJing too hard with all these meme coins and whatever else, you would have heard our awesome announcement on Tuesday, which was January 28th, around DataHaven. And before I get into it a bit, please do go check it out. DataHaven.xyz is the website. Check out DataHaven_XYZ, which is our X handle. And then for those of you that don't actually know or haven't come across what DataHaven is, in a nutshell, it's a decentralized storage solution secured through our friends at EigenLayer and delivering a censorship-resistant infrastructure for AI, Web3, and tokenized assets. Now, that's a complete mouthful. No, it's not word salad. No, it's not just jargon. We're going to unpack that. And I think I'll start off first with my good friend over here, Luke, who has been an incredible supporter, incredible access, wealth of information, and somebody that I'm so glad that we met while we started going down this path of expanding into the world of Ethereum through AVSs and landed on EigenLayer. So Luke, how about for the audience, you give them the TLDR or the Eli 5 on EigenLayer?
Yeah, absolutely. We can keep it relatively quick so we can start talking about DataHaven. But
yeah, sure.
EigenLayer is a shared security platform. Really what this means is normally when you have to go and start a new network or build a new service, you have to go raise a ton of money. And most of that is going to pay operators, right? So you're paying that money, you're inflating a token, and you're distributing that to operators in the form of revenue. That in general is like a very inefficient model for a lot of companies, especially services that are looking to tap into maybe more traditional clients or the Web2 infrastructure space or whatever it may be. So what EigenLayer has done has allowed you to use Ethereum or any ERC20 that you so choose to basically secure an application while still receiving the base yield associated with that asset. So really at the end of the day, what this means is that people like Moonbeam or whatever it may be are able to come into this ecosystem, and instead of them having to go raise $50 million or do some massive token sale to be able to bootstrap their own network, they can leverage Ethereum security and be able to launch faster, more effectively, and more cost effectively, while going to market in most likely a more meaningful way and using their capital in other ways, right? So a lot of the time that I spend is identifying unique use cases, trying to figure out where we could potentially slot in some of these microservices, and then really advocating for AVSs that are building in the space.
No, that's awesome. Thank you, Luke. And yes, everything around staking, restaking, shared security is, I guess somebody coined the phrase, but is hot right now, together with AI, obviously. And we're going to talk about that in a bit too. I guess out of interest, what are some of the rather unique or interesting use cases that you've seen? So some of these AVSs that are deploying in the EigenLayer ecosystem that have really made you go, yeah, we've built this, it's working, and look at the actual applications or products that are trying to launch.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's two forms of this, right? There's traditional applications that you can kind of find anywhere that could be built, bootstrapping your own network, and largely like are pretty the best way to put it is it could be built anywhere, right? And EigenLayer is a potential choice for them and maybe a more cost-effective choice, but that's really it. So that's like, if you look at oracles, if you look at like a lot of stuff around data availability that EigenLayer itself is doing, right? These things can be built elsewhere. There's a secondary like set of applications that are a little more unique and require massive buy-in from operators really to even exist. And this is like ZKTLS, a lot of this like bridge DVN work that we're doing, fast finality layers, pre-conf stuff, like all of these things actually survive with EigenLayer being a core component of what they do. So I think both are like incredibly valuable and incredibly important. I think what excites us is the ability to amplify a more cost-effective model for that first case. And then the second case is really making sure that potentially companies that didn't even know that they could build in Web3 have the ability to do so, right? And that's like verified AI inference and things like that we're really, really excited on and spending a lot of time on.
Love that. Thank you, Luke. And I know I'm going to get back to you with a bunch more questions, but I thought, why not throw it over to Aaron for a second? Because I'm sure there are people listening right now going, okay, there's a lot of buzzwords being thrown around. There's a lot of crazy jargon. Either they know very well what we're talking about, or they're thinking that we are pretty much crazy on a Friday morning or afternoon. So why don't we talk a little bit about the underlying tech stack that we're deploying for DataHaven, and also, I guess, feed into that a little bit of how it translates to what we built originally with Moonbeam.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'd love to. So, as you mentioned, DataHaven's about decentralized storage to serve Web3 use cases and AI in particular. So, storage, everyone needs storage. It's sort of a core component to computing and so forth. And I think it's really awesome in EigenLayer how there are a bunch of these different, it's kind of got some similarities to the Polkadot world, where you've got these different heterogeneous services that are going to be working together to provide like a higher order service. And so DataHaven, so how is it constructed? Well, we're actually leveraging a bunch of components. So first of all, it's based on Substrate. So that Substrate is the framework on which Moonbeam was built. It's a rock solid foundation and framework for launching chains. And so we're able to leverage a lot of the components that make up the Moonbeam chain to build DataHaven. But Substrate is also great because you can go, and other teams have developed other modules, they're called palettes, that can be loaded into the runtime. And so some of those we're able to go and cherry pick and add. Some of those we'll have to develop ourselves. But a lot of this stuff is available. And so, compared to Moonbeam, DataHaven is going to be a standalone chain, but it's secured instead of by Polkadot validators, it's secured by the EigenLayer restaking protocol. So that's kind of where we get the security. And then we're adding, a module around storage. It's actually made up of several modules where, you'll have persistent, immutable storage, censorship resistant, et cetera. So there's going to be nodes in the network. So some nodes will be focused on execution, but some nodes are going to be focused on storage. And those there's, even then there's kind of different ones. There's ones that are focused on just making sure there's multiple replicas of your data so that it's not lost. And then there's others that are focused more on the delivery of the data so it can be retrieved. And the model is very flexible so that we'll be able to adapt it, as I said, particularly to serve AI agents and those use cases, so that the UI the UI UX is tailored towards, we want to tailor it to humans, but also make sure that it's going to be optimal for these AI agents as well. And it is going to be EVM compatible. So we'll have the EVM compatibility layer. So we'll add the necessary links between the EVM so that all the storage operations can be called with the EVM. And why is that good? Well, that means that people can use all the wallets that they're used to. It's consistent with the rest of the Ethereum ecosystem. All the tooling that developers are used to, et cetera, all will work as is the case with Moonbeam today. So yeah, I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. there's a couple of other things. There will be a native bridge back to Moonbeam to interconnect these networks. And of course, a native bridge into trustless bridge to Ethereum in order to integrate with the EigenLayer restaking protocol to manage the validators, which will be validating the blocks from the execution.
Awesome, thank you. And yes, I think it was shared up here. Anybody that is listening that feels either a little lost or wants to ask additional questions, jump into our Discord, jump into Telegram. We can answer anything there. Of course, we have the team on standby. Now, Alex, I know you're not just sitting there with a pretty face. Excuse me. You and I and the rest of the growth team in particular have been heads down, deep in the weeds, trying to bring this to the masses. The announcement, trying to get the word out there, trying to build the brand behind this. I guess I got two questions for you. One is, talk to us about the moose, our wonderful new mascot, which if anybody is following me on X, you'll probably see that my profile pic became a pretty cool little moose. And then secondly, which is very important to share, is a bit about our mantra, which is your data, your story. And it's very powerful. We use these simple words on the Moonbeam side, build here, grow anywhere. We have these real simple yet powerful words on the DataHaven side, which is your data, your story. So yes. Oh, the intern's favorite animal is the moose. I didn't even share that. My favorite animal is a tiger. Even though it's not an African animal, it is my favorite animal. But over to you, Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. First, storage only 34 times. I'm disappointed. We're going to have to really jack that number up.
Oh, we're not finished.
Yeah. A moose to us, one, like the thing is, like, storage, can you think of something in this space? Like, it has to be fun. You want to be able to engage with it. Like, a moose represents our ability to say, like, look, this product isn't for a bunch of robots here. We're people, or AI agents, I guess. We'll get to that too. Building inside of our ecosystem, and like having a mascot and something to sort of rally behind is fun. You'll see us in real life events with moose everywhere. We're building inside of a haven, a place that is like a good place to be. Your haven is going to be different than my haven, but you know what's going to be good about it? It's going to be freaking awesome in there. And there's the imagery of a moose, strong and sturdy, and with those antlers that have sort of multiple prongs off of them. Like, there's just so much potential for a moose. And by the way, if you run into a moose, you're the one screwed, not the other way around. And so that sturdiness and kind of lends its credibility to us keeping you safe when your most important data, particularly that stuff sitting behind your AI agents, is inside of our ecosystem. And then your data, your story. Like, I don't know, I've been in technology for a very long time and running product orgs and sort of thinking about things and watching the AI revolution happen. Like, the most important thing that we have as businesses these days is the differentiated data that we create. And as more and more things get shoved into these centralized models, and OpenAI continues to grow, and Llama does this, and like this competition happens, and DeepSeek does that, and more information is soaked up. That the things you keep to yourself, the things that you keep that allow you to differentiate your business, are the things that are going to allow you to exceed and succeed in the future. And so we want to be part of that story. We think that there's a huge miss here in the market for the need for sort of decentralized storage to help protect in these sort of growing ecosystems. And instead of starting with the technology stack that wasn't built for it out of the gate, this DataHaven exists using technology that exists now, that on January 31st of this year is what's novel and new. And we're not trying to retrofit something from the past. And I think that's really important. And when I look at who's building within Eigen's ecosystem, it's some of the most forward-looking projects that exist inside of all of Web3. And so it's just a natural place for us to be, given that sort of belief system.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned a couple of things, particularly around this, your data, your story. Truly the most important and valuable digital asset that you're going to create is going to be data. It will outlive all of us. And we need to be very careful in what we actually store as data. But at the same time, as you mentioned, we do need to protect that data. And so, the key components behind DataHaven are around censorship resistance. I hate that word because if I say that fast, I just can't say it fast enough, but it's such a great word. verifiability, immutability, tamper resistance. So all these key features and functionality that we need for critical data have been built from the get-go and are being built from the get-go within DataHaven. And exactly as you said, we have been looking forward as to the narratives, where some of these narratives are going, AI agents, human data as well, and understanding that we're building for this, we're not adding it on as an afterthought.
Yeah.
So,
and who are we to tell you what's important to you? Like, I think that the most important thing is this isn't just businesses storing data. Like, there's something that matters to you, to your community, and you want to make sure it fits within that same set of principles. Like, that's where that Haven word comes into again. Like, we want to be there to sort of support individuals as well in their quest to have this sort of same set of principles applied to the things that matter.
Love that. Yes. And this relates, or at least translates very well to what we're planning to do as a preferred storage partner of EigenLayer. They have a thriving ecosystem. I love watching them grow, first mover advantage, been absolutely crushing it from day one. I've been an avid follower of EigenLayer. And I have a couple of questions for you, Luke, and actually for the group here. I don't mind who wants to follow on with this. So AI agents, I need to talk about this. I'm guessing that the two biggest words that we're going to throw out today are going to be storage and AI. I guess we should keep a tally of all of them. I'll throw out a question to you, and then I do want to dive a little deeper into this whole narrative around AI. What is your favorite, if you have one, AI agent that you've either used, you've been looking at, you're researching, or even just the use case for an AI agent? And sorry, I know I put you on the spot there, but it's one of those important questions because I love hearing the use that people are seeing for AI and for AI agents. So yeah, share with us.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we've spent a lot of time thinking about this space and trying to figure out exactly how EigenLayer is going to play like a forward-thinking role within it. We have a couple people on our team that are much more adept and intelligent in this space, and they're all over Twitter. So if you see Nader or Gajesh, like those guys are incredibly plugged in there. But I think a lot of what use cases immediately draw me in are like the financial technology use cases around liquid hedge fund positioning, being able to buy and liquidate certain positions and actually helping it manage a portfolio. I think these things are really interesting, not only because of like how much value they have potentially if they're actually able to successfully trade within a portfolio, but also like how much room there is to grow there. The thing that we've really identified is that the verifiability of who's actually doing the work, is the work actually legitimate? How do you actually log that work? How do you actually post that work on chain? All of that's like incredibly complex and convoluted right now. And what that means is like, you could give your money to an AI bot and actually it's just someone on the back end messing around and just trading your money. And that's like a fundamental issue and something that is going to keep this space from actually being able to charge for these services. Like it's just not going to happen at scale. Big institutions are not going to be able to utilize these things. So I think for me, the area that I'm most excited about is that immediate speculative space. I think that's where innovation happens. And that's where crypto normally lies, at least at the onset of like new initiatives. But I think there's a ton of room to make those things fully verifiable, make those things like truly autonomous, where there's not someone that can pull the plug on them or change the rules associated with it. And that's where I think like data availability and decentralized storage are going to be incredibly crucial to that narrative.
Yeah, that very, very well said. I like to say, and this is what I've been sharing for quite some time, that today a lot of the AI agents have just been task bots. Give them some commands, let them go off and do a task for me and come back. And hopefully it does it correctly. And there's no person in the back end manipulating or working with it. So the autonomous AI agents have, yes, some long way to go. And of course, we're going to be very dependent on verifiable data. And what that leads me on to is the importance for contextual data. So we were actually speaking with one of our large partners quite some time ago about AI agents. And I don't really mind. It doesn't matter to us whether the AI agent has been built on virtuals, on ELIZA, whether you're using any of the other frameworks like Graphene or whatever else. At the end of the day, they still need to rely on a number of things: verifiable data, clear commands, and I guess thought process behind it. But just as importantly is this concept of context awareness. Anybody here want to talk about that or share some info?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind jumping in there, Ryan. So
Yeah,
like I
go.
think, so I've been, I mean, I have a development background, so I've been kind of looking at this for like, a couple of months now. Like, and I have been kind of working with Eliza, so I have it running locally, kind of building some proof of concept against Moonbeam, and thinking about DataHaven use cases. And I think, I think, there is kind of like, well, I mean, obviously there is like an AI revolution on the way. I think there are a lot of changes coming, but I think there are kind of a couple aspects that I think are somewhat underestimated by people. Like, just if you think about the use cases, like people are increasingly trusting AI in general, not just AI agents, but AI in general with like super sensitive data, right? Whether that is in a professional setting, people are using it to like validate product strategy or like marketing messages or like this kind of stuff. And even on a personal level, like, I mean, I've heard a lot of anecdotes of people using AI for like psychotherapy. And so I think the shoe that still has to drop to a certain extent is how is that data actually getting used by the likes of an OpenAI, an Anthropic, obviously the company behind DeepSeek, and think about, if you are sharing all this like super sensitive data, in some cases data that you may not even share with like your own family members, how much of a honeypot that becomes for attack, right? And so I think what you will see is like a bit of an evolution to like as people realize kind of the value potential, but also the dangers there. I think people are going to probably you're going to start seeing a rise or like a push for like running more local agents or local inference to somewhat combat the centralization factor. And then the next thing is like, yeah, where do you store all this data? Like, so AI agents are using this in a variety of different ways, right? Like one is like long-term memory. So there is a limit to how big the context can get for an LLM. And so when you look at something like Eliza, like they're basically augmenting that with like kind of external memory outside the LLM. So that becomes like a place where like this data store goes. Input flows, right? People are gonna like give these AI agents CSV files or documents to process or like I don't know, like real-time data, like all this kind of stuff. Output flows, like, so for example in Eliza, like people are using it to do sentiment analysis. They're looking at trading Telegram channels and basically building sentiment around specific tokens or meme tokens and so forth. And then what you're also going to see, or what you're also seeing, is like agent chaining, where like you have one agent that's responsible for essentially producing like a report or a bunch of analysis, which then becomes the input for the next agent to kind of do its work. And I think the challenge is that the more that these agents people start trusting these agents with critical data, with mission critical operations, with assets of value, there becomes a huge incentive to like do an attack, right? So I mean, we see this in crypto all the time. And the thing is with these LLMs is like it is possible to jailbreak them. And so I think you are going to see like people try and attempt to gain access to like the data that's going into the agent, either from memory or from some of the input flows, in order to try and manipulate the agent to get it to do something else, right? And so I think that is where like I think something like DataHaven is going to become absolutely crucial, to have this kind of secure, tamper-proof, again, censorship resistant. I know we've said it several times, but like I think this is going to become an absolute like key foundation in order to make sure that the agent that is doing what you want it to do, as opposed to somebody else, basically, right? So yeah. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole concept around security and behavior, human behavior, is very important, because you said something so important. What we're starting to see are agents communicating with agents and leveraging the data that they got from the other agent to now make decisions moving forward. So like always, a little bit of alpha out there is don't upload some sensitive information into these unknown repositories. Certainly, I mean, I know for myself, I'm super cautious around what I share up there. I usually ask more generic questions and then kind of or make up fake names for companies and whatever else to try and pull the data out of there. But please do be super careful behind there. I know we're coming up on time. I did want to give a shout out to a couple of agents that I've actually been playing with. So I played across a number of the actual ecosystems. I am loving what's happening in the virtuals world, and we've actually spoken with a number of the products out there. Polytrader, for example, Athena, for example, a number of really great AI agents out there. So it doesn't matter which ones they are. Please feel free to go out there and experiment. Be careful, experiment, learn what it's about. Don't be scared of what seems like a black box of what are these AI agents doing and whatever else. Just be cautious with the data that you're actually sharing. Any further or last information before we wrap up? I feel like we need to do at some point a deeper session. Probably, Nick, we can pull some data from Messari, and Luke, I would love to dive deeper into some of the other AI and Eigen stuff. If ever possible, would love to get Nada on here as well, because he is just an absolute wealth of knowledge, especially around the AI stuff. I've been following all these what feels like speed dating kind of sessions that he runs with these projects that are demonstrating whatever else, but hot and heavy narrative. So before I wrap up here, any last words of wisdom from any of you?
No, I'd just say, like, come engage with us. I mean, DataHaven exists like this again, go back to this haven and being a place for you. Like, come make it yours. Like things like the Moose's backstory, like, guess who's going to write that? All of you listening right now. And like, there will be ways to interact in this platform that just feels fun and at the same time is extraordinarily valuable for you as we secure the things that matter most. So just come interact, ask tricky questions, participate, and yeah, we look forward to sort of growing alongside everybody.
Yeah, challenge us, come to us with new and novel ideas. We're building this. We can add in modules and ideas and configurations that actually suit the use cases that make sense. So please do engage. Lastly, firstly, should I say, thank you to everybody that's joined. Nick, always appreciate your time. Luke, buddy, always appreciate your time. I know I'm going to be seeing you soon. The Moonbeam and DataHaven team, thank you. For anybody heading out to ETH Denver, you will find a number of us out there, both representatives showcasing Moonbeam. We'll be showcasing, and I guess this is our first public appearance around DataHaven. And in fact, we've co-sponsored EigenLayer's Rollup Day, which I know will be out there with EigenLayer, with EigenLayer, and with a large number of the leading players in this AVS space. So we're super excited. I'll certainly be down there. I'm looking forward to chatting with as many people as possible. If anybody knows me well enough, people just fill my bucket. So I love talking to everyone and everyone. And we look forward to meeting some new and wonderful projects, people, and chatting about novel ideas. So with that, thank you, everybody. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekends. Grab a fresh cup of coffee and enjoy your days. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.